Assalamu alaikum, I'm Abdul Haseeb. Today I'll be sharing with you about technological prosperity. Improving technology does not always lead to prosperity. Now, while this may sound like a strange idea, this is actually true. We've been so used to people claiming that we need to increase our wages, we need to improve our living standards, we need to expand our opportunities, and that all will happen when there will be a technological advancement, when there will be a technological change. Unfortunately, history has something else to offer. The historical record is much more complicated than that. Since I'm talking about history, it would be useless to not give you an example. If I would talk about an example, I'd say that let's talk about the medieval times with the introduction of as simple as watermills, the spread of watermills, and the adoption of windmills in the medieval times. Now, that did lead to more productive and higher productivity in agriculture. It did not lead to shared prosperity for everyone because the workforce was neither voluntary nor was it well compensated. The peons, they were forced to work on the land of those in power. There was not an equally divided prosperity. Not everyone benefited from that technological change. Another example could be the cotton gin in the American South. Another could be the first 100 years of industrialization in England. And all these stories, they're the same stories. In each of these cases, in each of these scenarios, they have the same story with the productivity increasing, even dramatic increases in productivity, very dramatic increases in productivity, yet it did not necessarily lead to shared prosperity. Never. Perhaps some did earn fortunes. Some people, they did prosper, they did earn fortunes, but it wasn't a broad-based prosperity. It wasn't. But improving technology is important for economic development, isn't it? It is. And if we improve technology, that comes by how we shape our choices. Now, this might sound like conflicting with the first insight. I said that improving technology does not always lead to prosperity, but improving technology is inevitable. It is required for development, isn't it? That's true. So our focus should be on what reconciles the both, the productivity and the prosperity, on what creates the shared prosperity without choking off the higher productivity. How do we reach that? That comes from the competing visions, from how we shape our choices. What does it take to share the gains from higher productivity? What does it take? I mean, it's a political process. The question is, who has the political power? It's also a social process. Question is, who has the prestige? Who is it that has the power to shape our visions into thinking how the technology must be used? Are we going to build something? Are we going to educate people? Who is going to participate in this high productivity work? There are a lot of questions that need to be addressed. But there's this small insight I'd like to share. A few individuals, in one way or the other, can tip the balance. They can easily tip the balance. Interestingly, this is a new idea in economics. Economists are they're more comfortable with the idea that big processes, big innovations, big processes were the main reason, the core components, what drove economic history, not individuals. They're more comfortable by telling people that it was the big processes that drove the economic history, not a few individuals. But then again, if you look back at the choices we've made, at the visions that have shaped those societies, at the technologies that we've developed, if you look back at that, you'll realize that it has always been about leadership. Charisma has a huge role. It has a huge role here. And then again, I'd like to repeat, a few individuals in one way or another can tip the balance. Because maybe they have that charisma. They have that higher productivity. They have the control of the technological advancement. They know what's changing. They are the ones who had the watermills. They are the ones with the windmills. It's just that the watermills and the windmills have changed. Those are the only two things that have changed. And maybe they've increased. Now, talking about tipping of the balance, we do want technology to improve, right? We want that technology needs to be improved, but we want shared prosperity. True? Then we need to work on it through political and social processes together, by keeping them together. Now, a very common question: how would the prosperity be shared? What is required to share prosperity, right? I mean, some people are prospering, right? They're prospering. How? Because they have the control. How do we share it? That's sharing prosperity comes from new tasks, from countervailing powers, from the political representation, from regulation, from keeping things in balance. And we have had it right. We've had it right all along until 1980s. We've had it right until 1980s. In the early and mid 20th century, we did counterbalance the industrializations, their power. We did counterbalance it. But without choking off the productivity gains? True. Absolutely true. We did not choke off the productivity gains, and the wages, they were increasing during that period until, unfortunately, during the 1980s, there was this big switch, a really great switch in an ideology. What ideology was that? An ideology on how to run a business, and how these technological advancements are coming. And I'd say that the most appropriate and the most famous term that came up was, even probably you know about it, you've heard about it, and you even know what it means. That was shareholder primacy. The idea that shareholders come first and everything comes afterwards. Now, does this statement sound shared? Does this statement sound productive? It does sound productive, but it does not sound equally divided. And although the shareholder primacy ideology, it went on for a long time, it prolonged, it survived. However, after the 1980s, the emphasis changed. It totally changed because a set of influential people, they convinced and persuaded the policymakers, the business people, that actually shareholder primacy means about squeezing your workers as hard as you could, squeezing everything out of them. Does that sound shared prosperity to you? Doesn't sound shared prosperity to me. And that is exactly what happened. We are now in between of a new innovation wave. Two words: generative AI, generative artificial intelligence. That is the current innovating wave. ChatGPT was launched in November 2022. And that was launched by people who had made an alliance led by Microsoft. Then there's also the rival Google product, Bard Artificial Intelligence. Now, there may be currently these two companies are leading, and I'd say that Maybe a few more might come in this space, but there isn't much space here. It isn't likely that a lot of companies will dominate this space, this current innovative wave. As of yet, at least yet, we can see that there's only few companies. Does that sound shared prosperity to you? Does not sound shared prosperity to me. Actually, we need to focus on the key ideas they still need to be focused on. I mean, the philosophy of these tech industry leaders is basically revolving around the idea of machine intelligence, which is basically being able to make the machine do things what humans can do. The tasks, the thoughts that humans can think of or perform, the machines would do it. Inevitably, replacing us, replacing humans. But think of that, we are not comfortable with it. We think of it as a very dangerous idea. And then we prefer the alternate tradition of computer science that emphasizes on machine usefulness. That idea revolves around making products, developing technology in a way that it's useful, that enhances the productivity of humans. It does not replace them, but enhances their performance, enhances their productivity, even those with lesser education. We are fighting between these two terms, machine intelligence and machine usefulness. Let's just say if machines did displace us, if automation did rule, what would happen? If we don't create new tasks, if we don't create more opportunities, this technological innovation, this wave is going to affect, but it will have a very less positive effect on everyone. Once again, a few will make fortunes. Maybe there'll be a higher average productivity level, maybe more GDP, more outputs. But if we don't create new tasks, we're still going to be left behind. Question is that are you part of the participation in this shared prosperity, which everyone is going to enjoy? Thank you.